Hello, welcome to another episode of Sit and See. I'm Dr. Jared Jones, research specialties, ancient systems of meditation, the cognitive science of meditation, Buddhist philosophy, and the philosophy of science. And I've been doing this series now for almost 90 days. We're getting there. Um, the idea being to introduce the five foundations, which are five core techniques spread over five different training areas, you could say, that to allow meant to allow lay people living in the real world to train in meditation and have some success actually training in meditation. So that's why we're gathered here with Sit and See. And I'm thinking maybe starting this week because there's been much greater interest, I think, in Q&A as opposed to doing the practices. I might transition over to doing more open Q&As and having less meditation classes. So maybe we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday meditation class, and then Tuesday, Thursday at the same time or similar time, maybe earlier in the day, maybe varying, doing open Q&A. So I think I'm going to start that this week, and then that'll leave a little bit more time to also do uh, content creation and so on and so forth, which I know people have been patiently waiting on new videos and so on and so forth. But I've been quite busy getting the Lohan up and running and keeping this going, and I haven't had time to finish. Although I've started a couple of things for content, I haven't had time to finish it. Welcome, Jessamine. Good to see you. So, yeah, in terms of announcements, those of you who are coming in watching this asynchronously. Usually I think there's about 200 people or so, 150 that usually stumble on the video. You may be stumbling on this live, you may be stumbling on it for the first time, but if you're a regular and you're listening to this, I'm thinking we'll go down to Monday, Wednesday, Friday for sit and see, and then Tuesday, Thursday, maybe one early time, like 4:30 UK time, and one late time, like 8:30, the normal time for sit and see. We'll do an open Q&A, and we'll see. We'll see how that works. I'm just gonna keep fiddling with it, I think, until I find the right blend of having enough time to create content and having enough time to answer people's questions and getting some practice in as well. It just seems like there's a lot of questions, and I keep telling people, "Hey, come to an open Q&A," and then it's been a few weeks since I've had a Q&A. So I need to get that worked in. Okay. So for the two of you who are here, now you know. Everyone else will have to find out the hard way, I suppose. No, I'll put up an announcement on all the socials and so forth, or at least here on YouTube where it's relevant. Okay, welcome, Luck. Good to see you again. Right. Well, since it looks like it might just be you two this evening, I have a feeling it's not going to be a big class. Let's go ahead and jump straight into our practice, I think. Yeah. So we'll do some standing practice today. Hey, Oates, welcome. So we're going to jump straight into our practice today. We're going to do some standing practice from the Lohan materials. So very, very simple. In terms of the postures, there are just a couple that are from the early part of those materials. So we'll do both of those postures today. The posture that I normally teach comes from the Chinese health arts. It's called the ultimate posture. And your hands, instead of resting at your sides, they're at about 45. And the only difference between this and the Lohan posture, everything else, as far as I can tell, is the same. But the first posture when you're doing the Lohan set, the hands come out, and you'll notice. Watch. If I bend my knees, right, then my arms want to come back like this to compensate, and they end up at 45. If I bring the arms forward, watch my head. If I bring the arms forward to keep the tension out of the shoulders and the back and so forth, the body actually has to come back so that the hands can raise up. You see? So these are counterbalancing each other in terms of the structure of the body. So that means that your weight will end up not on your heel, but on the front of your heel instead of the back of your toe, which is where I normally recommend for this first posture. So since the arms are raised out a touch, you want to have the weight towards the front of the heel. And you still want to have that stretchy feeling in the feet where everything in the whole body bounces a little bit. So we'll start here. So first take your attention and we'll do a couple rounds of Negong, which is similar to the body scanning that I teach, but you actually do releasing inside the structure instead of just observing. So start at the top of the head this time and just get the mind to feel into the tissue at the top of the head, the top of the skull. And there are actually muscles there. So just try to relax any little bit of tension you feel around the top of the skull. And then you're just going to move down the body in concentric bands of tissue. So this will be the next band. So quite often when I do my body scan, I'll have you do the sides of the skull, the back of the skull, and the forehead independently. But in this, you'll do all three at the same time. Matter of fact, don't think I need these. So release that next band. Get the mind into the tissue first, and then release. And then moving down, just release the rest of the face. And then start at the upper third of the skull. Sorry, the upper third of the neck. Get the mind into the tissue first. Observe momentarily, keeping the shape the same because you should have the shape correct already in terms of your body structure. Just release any tension that doesn't need to be there. Middle third of your neck. Release. And the lower third of your neck. People hold a lot of tension. I'm going to come close, but you can stay where you are. People hold a lot of tension if you look at my shoulders by doing this. So if you relax your shoulders, don't just relax them down because they'll still be rolled forward, a lot of you. Relax them down and back, but without going like this and pulling your arms down the back. That's just more tension. So you just want to release the tension that's there so that the shoulder falls down into the socket where it should be. And you'll see if I exaggerate this, that what ends up happening is, see how tense my neck looks? That's because your shoulders are connected to your neck. So when you release the shoulders back and down, watch my shoulders and watch the background. See how there's more space? They move apart, actually. So they roll down the back like this and they move apart. And if you do that properly, you'll feel, maybe not today, but eventually, you'll feel the neck actually releases too because some of those muscles run up the back of the neck. Next, for the sake of simplicity, just get the mind into both shoulders first and release anything in the shoulders, including the collarbones and the scapula that doesn't need to be tensed to hold the position that you're in. Now the bicep region, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms, first knuckle, second knuckle, third knuckle, to the fingertips. And now bring your awareness to the chest. So just like we normally do with the body scan that I have you do, put the mind into the entire chest cavity, front and back. And then just release anything that doesn't need to be there to hold you in the position that you're in. And release that weight down to the feet, to those points at the front of the heels where the weight is hitting the ground. Now, some of you might be feeling that your feet are getting warm or that there's tingling or electrical sensations in your legs. That's normal. It's not harmful, and you can ignore it even though it gets uncomfortable. Next, go to the diaphragm region, so the next ring of tissue from the solar plexus down to about 2 finger lengths above the belly button. That whole ring of tissue around the body where the diaphragm lives. So first place the mind inside there, and then release anything that doesn't need to be tense to hold you in the position. And if you can, consciously let that weight hit the front of the heels. Next, go down to the waist, the front and back of the pelvis. Try to ignore your hip joints for now, just the front and back of the pelvis. Now into the hip joints, into the upper thighs. With the upper thighs, because we're standing, pay special attention to the large muscle on the top of the thigh. It may be firing more than it needs to be firing. There may be more tension in that muscle than actually needs to be there to hold you up in space. So release absolutely every bit of tension in that muscle that you can that doesn't need to be there. And the lower thigh, just above the knee on both sides, there's another muscle that quite often fires when you're standing. On the left-hand side, it'll be towards the inner part of the knee. On the top, same thing on the right-hand side. And just do your best to release any extra tension in that muscle that doesn't need to be there. And then into the knees. And with the knees, I tend to find that the back of the knee, there's a small muscle there that likes to rotate the ankle, rotate the lower part of the leg. So just try to get the mind in there and release that small muscle that may or may not be trying to rotate the lower parts of your legs. Once again, letting the weight hit the front part of the heels. And then the calves on both sides, ankles, heels, arches, balls of the feet, toes, toe tips. One more time with less instruction now. I'll just remind you one more time though. When I name the body part to do this, this is now a Neigong exercise, an internal skill exercise. You're going to place your attention in that part of the body and then ask any tension that doesn't need to be there to release without changing the shape of your structure or changing it only a very small amount. So, top of the skull, and the next ring down, and the rest of the skull, upper third of the neck, middle third of the neck, lower third of the neck, shoulders, bicep, elbow, forearm, wrist, palm, and the back of your hand. First knuckle, second knuckle, third knuckle, fingertip, the chest, diaphragm region, waist region, pelvic region, hip joints, upper thigh, lower thigh, knee, calf, ankles, heels, arches, balls of the feet, toes, toe tips. Now that your mind is pervading the body. For those of you who have done my work before, place the mind into 5 points: top of the head, both hands, both feet, just so that you can feel the major points of the body. Close your eyes and just feel as you very, very, very slowly raise your arms until you're hugging a barrel. Just feel how that naturally makes the weight want to go to the front of the feet as the arms come up. See? And so to keep your body structure the same, you'll have to bend your knees like you're sitting down on a stool at a pub. So you bend the knees slightly, and then you'll see that the weight balances itself out again. That your arms are being held up by the stretchiness coming from the spine being slightly stretched from your butt sitting down on a chair. That connects up to the arm. And so if you can get that relaxed feeling that you had from the first posture into the second posture and then sit down and find that counterbalance. And now the weight is going to be just behind the front of the ball of the foot, right? So now we'll do my body scan instead of the Nagong, and we'll start from the bottom. So this time, no releasing. You're just placing your mind into the tissue and maintaining the posture. So place the mind into the toes, balls of the feet, arches, heels, ankles, calves, knees, lower thigh, upper thighs, hip joints, pelvic region, tailbone, anus, perineum, sexual organs, rest at the tip or the most sensitive point of the organ, and then return to the tailbone. Then come to the waist, diaphragm region, chest, shoulders, biceps, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms and the back of your hands, fingers, lower third of your neck, middle third, upper third, the joint between your neck and your skull, the back of the skull, left side, right side, and the rest of your skull besides the top and the top of the skull. With a bit of grace, bring the hands down. And just take a moment to see what the body feels like. Okay. Welcome, Chloe. If you're still here, Dave, welcome. So, the Chinese health arts, Taoist health arts, obviously, it's a little bit different than just training for the sake of the meditative skill only, right? So, when you're doing Neigong style practices, you're also learning how to do something in the part that you have brought awareness to. You're learning how to do something, hence internal skill, right? Neigong. So, I'm sure for some of you, especially if you're in the Lohan course, if you're in the 18 Lohan course, uh, probably even if you've listened to the instructions a few times, actually going through it like this is I would imagine is probably pretty exciting, right? Maybe not the right word, but you know what I mean. Uh, if you can start to understand how you can release the extra tension in the body and release it to a specific point on the floor, then you're on your way to being able to generate real internal skills in terms of training in health arts and internal martial arts from a Taoist and Shaolin point of view. Yeah. And then also being able to stand and move in this way, it has a bunch of health benefits because if the shoulder is tense and whatever, then the nerves aren't getting as much blood and the muscles aren't getting as much blood and you're using all of this energy in the shoulder that you don't need to. And if you can release it, well now there's space. See? And with this space comes the movement of nutrients and therefore better health in that limb. And likewise, when you go to do things with this limb, if there's space and openness and good movement, then you're on your way also to having more strength and better health. So, in brief, this is how it would then be transitioning over to the health side, uh, and also into the internal martial arts side. So, if you want to know how you, I don't know, just as an example, I'm sure some of you have seen guys on the internet where somebody has their hand like this and they send a little pulse into the guy's body or whatever, and they drop onto the floor, and you go, "That looks fake. What did that guy just do?" Right. So that kind of skill comes from what we were just doing there, releasing downward or releasing upward, and a wave of pressure comes through the body from the release and hits the person at the contact point with your entire body weight, even though you're not contracting the muscles in the ordinary way, the big muscle groups, right, to try to make the person move. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Very, very, very interesting. But even more relevant to what we're doing here today, having those kinds of skills makes the body more comfortable for meditation training. So, if your body is open and released, and the structure is strong, and the tissues are healthy, and also if you're into that sort of thing, if the channels and so forth are clean, etc., then it's easier to sit and do your practice. So that's how these things tie together. So for the new people, if you're interested in training more in that stuff, I've partnered with Neil Ripsky, who's a fantastic 40-year professional martial artist, very good lineages, who's teaching 18 Lohan Palm, which is sort of like it's like the grandparent of Tai Chi, you know. It's one of the mythical arts of Shaolin, one of the arts that Bodhidharma supposedly brought to Shaolin, which eventually gave birth to Shaolin martial arts. Um, so if you like qigong, if you like tai chi, that sort of thing, it has all that in it. Uh, yeah, and then as for the rest, I think some of you who've been here before, you know what we're up to, but these practices, especially standing in my system, ah, thank you, sweet and sour. So, especially standing in the system that I teach, I teach it in this way for a couple reasons. So, if you're living as a real person, not in a cave, not in a monastery, not in an intensive environment, I'm not talking those down because they're exceptional things to do, right? But if you're not living that way, then having some skill in being able to do techniques that you can generalize out into more and more of your life is really beneficial. So, body awareness types of practice are things that you can generalize into more and more of your everyday condition of meditation training. So, the technique that we only did very briefly, 5 points, for example, meditating on top of the head, both hands, both feet, is a technique that you can begin taking into more of your activities. So you can take that into walking. Obviously, you can do it standing, and this allows you to do more training throughout the day, so that you're maintaining a higher quality of awareness throughout the day than you would be if your mind didn't have such a technique. So also, a problem that some meditators have if you're living in the real world and you're doing a fair amount of practice, if you haven't read the classics, and most people haven't read the classics, right? It's mostly nerds like me who have read the classics. Um, the next problem that you have when the mind is less distracted is that you start to get sleepy or the mind gets dull. And I'm sure some of you, if you've sat for an hour or more, you've come out of the session and felt that the mind is somehow like hazy or foggy and it's hard to remember stuff. And that state of mind is called laxity or dullness. And laxity slash dullness is a problem of meditators who have a mind that's starting to become stable. But as you gain more experience, you'll notice that your attention gets divided between being aware of the enjoyment basically that comes from having a calm mind and the object of concentration. So some of your mind is on the object and some of your mind is on the enjoyment of having a calm mind. And that division of awareness is actually training your mind to be less discerning. And if you continue to abide on that, since it's not a lucid state of awareness, the mind becomes sleepy and dull and hazy, and eventually it'll fall asleep if you just let it carry on. So, like this, if you train in something that makes the mind extremely calm, but you do it in a position, a physical position that keeps the mind highly alert, like a standing body scan meditation, then you're getting the benefits of a stabilizing meditation technique that works really fast to make the mind calm. but you're also getting the benefit of doing it in a position where it's very difficult for your mind to become dull and sleepy and full of laxity. So, likewise, if you do body scanning in a downwards direction, this is extremely beneficial for making the mind calm. And as you can see, if you're doing certain Neigong practices, it can be helpful to go from the top down and feel where the weight has been released to in the feet, right? Oh, did I release it to the point I intended, or did I release it somewhere else? Where is the weight going? This is all very beneficial, of course, but it tends moving downward through the body tends to encourage the mind to sink. It encourages the mind to become more dull and sleepy. Now, if you're in a standing position, that won't be a big problem, right? Because you're standing up. If you were laying down and you did a body scan in a downward direction, probably many of you will fall asleep very quickly, which can be nice, if you need to fall asleep quickly. My wife's father was in the special forces, and I've heard this from more than one special forces person now. They teach people in the special forces when you're behind enemy lines and your life is on the line, but you have to get sleep or you're going to be screwed up, right? If a few days without sleep and you're going to be your performance is going to suffer a lot. And so they teach them to do body scanning meditation to fall asleep behind enemy lines. When you're there without backup and everyone around you wants to kill you, this is how you fall asleep. So that's how calm it can make your mind. In any case, moving down the body tends, from my experience, tends to make the mind extremely calm, but also there's a very high risk of dullness. Moving up the body, since you stop here, the mind tends to sort of brighten up as you get towards where all your senses are and the top of the head. So, the type of technique that I teach for body scanning meditation, you're standing and you stop the scan at the top of the head, which tends to make the mind bright and fresh, right? So, just in terms of the general theory of why I'm teaching it in the way I am, for those of you who are interested in that sort of thing, this is the reason. This is the reason. But hopefully, even doing one session of sort of Lohan style Negong, letting everything release, hopefully you can feel the body starts to feel kind of nice, right? It feels energized like you've had a cup of coffee, you know? But it's also relaxed. It's not like that shaky, tense kind of, it's a relaxed, open, calm, energetic, ready to do something kind of feeling. Yeah. Hopefully some of you have that experience. So, yeah, I think that's about it for today, unless there are some questions. I'm Since we're at the beginning of a new month, I'll drop this out there. I'll drop this out there in the comments section. I do teach these classes for free, and I do the Q&As for free, and so on and so forth. Create the content, and up to now, I haven't had to put any ads on it, although I could put ads on it. I'd prefer not to. Um, After talking with my teachers, one of my teachers in particular, for I think almost 5 years, about how to handle the financial side of teaching and so forth, what I came to is this. Uh, if the community finds value in what I'm doing, as long as everybody chips in a little bit of something, whatever they can, or as long as the people who can chip in a fair amount chip that in, and the people who can't chip anything, no problem. As long as the community is chipping in enough so that I can keep the lights on and keep teaching for free because I do this full time, then it all works, you know? And sometimes this person over here won't have anything to chip in, which is completely fine. Most of the people I'm teaching have never given me a dime, and that makes me really happy. And then some people over here who have a bit more means will chip in what they can, and that will allow me to do the rest. So if you're getting some benefit and you'd like to see this sort of thing carry on and grow and so on and so forth, chip in whatever you can. Um, and if you'd like other ways to chip in besides just donating, then you could join the Lohan Palm course, and you'll learn my meditation techniques and Neil Ripsky's system for Lohan Palm, which is again like the great grandfather of of Tai Chi and Shaolin martial arts. So it's mainly an internal martial arts system and a self cultivation system. Or you could join the school course that I have. So the school course, which is in the description there and it's in the chat. I'm building a community of meditators who want to do this stuff a bit more hardcore with me. And people are on the wall talking about all the techniques that I teach. So the community has a sort of feedback system that you can't get if it's if it's in a public forum like this. It's not quite the same, right? So um, also, once I get about 100 people into the school course, then I'm gonna kick off the next level of that endeavor, which is I'm going to start a fund where we'll sponsor members of the community to go into retreat for 2 to 4 weeks. So basically, if it was going to cost you, let's say, $500 to go into retreat for a few weeks, and you needed 500 to help you out so that you could cover everything and pay for the retreat and travel and all this to do your retreat, people who are in the school course who have been in it for a period of time, who have done a little bit of retreat with me and so on and so forth. Again, I'll have to get very a bit more precise about how we're going to decide who gets to qualify for that. But nonetheless, if the burden is $500 that you couldn't afford to spend on retreat for 100 people, that's $5. $5, $5 US. You know, so between all of us, we could probably send between 3 and 5 people into retreat each month in the community. So over a 3 or 4 year period, everybody could do pretty serious retreat at least once, in addition to whatever else you're doing. So that's what I'm building with the school course. If you'd like to get in on that, please do join the school course. That's a great way to support what I'm doing in terms of free things, even though everything in the school course, at least up to now, is also available somewhere else for free. So yeah, yeah. Hop into that, make a donation, join Lohan Palm. Oh yeah, there's going to be retreats coming up in person, probably starting February or March next year. I'm going to do a retreat with Neil Ripsky. We're thinking the first one will be here in the UK where I live. Maybe it'll be near Edinburgh. Um, we'll have to do a little bit of thinking about it, but yeah, if you actually wanted to hang out in real life and do some training in real life, probably it'll happen through the Lohan community rather than through my own community, because I teach people to do retreat at home. It's important to do retreat where you live if you want to get better at doing practice where you live. Right. So yeah. Okay. All right, my friends. So I think that's it for today, since there's no questions coming through. Oates says body feels great after a good body scan. Yeah, yeah, definitely does. And then Oates, Dave, as as you start going through the Lohan material, there'll be different postures. There'll be, you know, there's much more material there to make the body work really well for meditation training. And I know you're a fitness nerd, so you'll start to see as we go deeper into those systems. There's just hundreds of layers to the body that the geniuses of many generations of working with the body have sorted things out to be able to work with. And so you go from working with the body to working with complex relationships inside the body and the energy system, and then to working with the mind. And every layer is building relationships between the three and making them all work together. So very skillful, very, very skillful. If you're into that sort of thing, if you're into yoga, martial arts, or internal arts, or qigong, or that sort of thing, check out Lohan. Okay. All right, my friends. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for being here. Like I said, if you missed it at the beginning, I'm probably going to start doing this class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then taking the weekends off because I have classes with my teachers and some other stuff that happens on weekends. And then in between, on a rotating basis, I'll probably do one or two Q&As depending upon how things are going. Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe. maybe we shall see. And I'm also thinking that one of those might be at a different time that I normally go live. So I might do one of those earlier, like 4:30ish UK time, because that time zone 4:30, I think hits like a huge range of different time zones across the world. So some people that couldn't join the other one will be able to join that one. You know what I mean? So yeah, I will see you tomorrow, maybe at a different time, maybe at the same time. Just stay tuned and turn on your notifications. Okay. I'll see you all later. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you again very soon. Cheers.